Hi guys, a couple of weeks ago you would have seen two little journals that I made using this fabric with little bees and daisies. And in that video I mentioned, look, if you didn't see it, I'll put the link to that video in the comments box below if you want to see what I'm talking about. But in that video I mentioned that the cover was semi-soft and I had made it from an old quilt. And somebody asked me on Facebook how I made a semi-soft cover with an old quilt. So rather than explain, because it sounds complicated, but it's really not, I thought I would just quickly make a teeny tiny one with this little scrap of fabric that I've got. And I'll just show you quickly because it was quite easy. I've got this old, I don't know what you call it, quilt, doona cover, bedspread, whatever. This belonged to my grandmother. It's quite old. I remember this when I was a kid on the bed in the spare room. And yeah, this was from like the 70s or early 80s. I have a memory of this on the bed. Anyway, when my grandmother passed away, of course no one wanted this, was too old-fashioned, and I didn't want to throw it away because I don't know. I just always remembered this in the spare room of my grandmother's house, and I thought I would then, instead of throwing it away, I would use it for crafting, give it another life. So this is all that I've got left. Over the years, I've been chopping it down, as you can see. I've just got a few long strips left, and I've just been making journal covers out of it. So I thought I'll just quickly show you how I do it. Now, when I say I'll show you how I make it, that's this particular journal. I wouldn't always use this in a soft cover. So if you're new to making journals, don't get hung up on tutorials. You know, they're good to give you some ideas and get you started. But in all honesty, you can use anything to make a journal. And this is just one of the many, many things that I have used to make journals over the years. I've used everything from quilts in soft cover journals, quilts, old handbags. I've even used, when I was younger, my kids' old inflatable pool that they put a hole in it and it deflated. Yeah, you can just use anything. So don't get too hung up on this is how to make a semi-soft cover journal, because it's not. You can make it 1,000 different ways. But I'll show you how I made those two little journals. Okay, so all I used was some of this old quilt because it's nice and squishy and fluffy, and in between I used just some suspension folder, and I think this was the weight of the one I used. This is just an offcut laying around my desk. I can't remember, but I think it was this same weight folder. So this is one of the old office suspension folders. Anyway, this coloured side I put on the inside. Sorry, when I say inside, I put it face down because when I put my fabric on top, I didn't want that pattern to show through. Anyway, I just used some acetone base glue, but use whatever glue you have. If you're going to use PVA glue to glue this, I'd suggest you brush it on thinly with a brush, because if you're covering it with thin cotton like this, the glue will probably show through. Also, be careful with PVA because PVA dries hard. It's not flexible. So your spine area may not be as bendy. There are some, I've got one here. This glue, this is Helmer's. This one has a flexible bond. It's kind of like PVA. It's a white glue dries with a flexible bond, and this is really good. Helmer's is a great brand. Anyway, for this, I'm just using Boyle's acetone base glue. It's not this glue. I just put Boyle's into this bottle because it's smaller and easier to use. This is an acetone base glue, so it dries quicker. Don't know if I should be using this today because it's really warm here and everything's drying super fast. Anyway, so I just squish some glue onto it. You don't have to cover every little bit because we're going to sew this anyway. I just make sure I try and get the edges. Okay. And then just stick that down. If you don't have an old quilt like this to get that squishy feel, there's a lot of things you can use, like an old woolen jumper, or sweater if you're in America. You know, an old towel doubled over, or even single. Old fabric scraps. Yeah, just use whatever, you know, you've got. You don't even need to make it squishy. I mean, I have in the past just put fabric straight down onto the suspension file. If I'm using like something like upholstery fabric where it's quite thick, yeah, often I'll just put it straight onto the folder. I won't put something in between. I know a lot of people use batting and stuff like that, but you know, I'm recycle only, so I don't actually buy any new craft supplies or anything like that other than glue and paint and stuff. So yeah, this is my version of batting. Anyway, then just usually, look, I would have left this to dry a little bit before I went chopping it. That side I didn't cut very well, did I? That's okay, I've got another dry one over there that I'll probably use instead of this one. Okay. So that's how I got my squishy cover. Then from there, look, I've got another one ready because I want to let this dry. Oh, actually, it doesn't matter because I'm not going to sew it right this minute. And then I just covered it with fabric, and that gave me that nice squishy feel. And to cover it with fabric, I just did the same thing. I put some glue on top. I think my little nozzle is clogged. Now this also, I didn't worry about every little bit of the fabric being covered because I'm going to sew it. I did put glue in these little indents. See where it's got that quilty pattern? Because I did want the fabric to kind of dry into that groove so that it kind of gave the fabric on top, that quilty look. Okay, and then I just placed that on top and stretched it out a little. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but those little quilty lines, see the fabric's kind of glued into that. So you can see that little quilty pattern. Okay, then now I did 2 journals and I mitered the corners different ways. So I thought, I don't know which you may like better. So one of them, I did the old school book way of folding the corners and folding over, and that will give you the square corners. The other one, I did like that, and then like that. And if you don't pull it too tight into the corners, you can get a square corner, but it's kind of hard to do. I think 3 corners came out square, but one of them didn't. So yeah, this one I might do the old school book way, hey? Okay, and look, for me, the mitering of the corners has always been my biggest problem. I never get them to look nice and neat. I've always had that issue. I know some people cut it like that, but I always get that little gap and it just never, I don't know, it just never looks nice and neat. So I just do the old school book corners, and that kind of works for me. Sometimes they look neat, not all the time. Okay, so then, actually usually I try and do both sides first. I don't know why. I just do. Oops, might help if I opened it. Okay, as you can see, this is why I never do journal tutorials. I also don't like that word tutorial because I feel like it implies this is the way you must do it. This is your set of instructions on how to do it. And I don't believe there's any one way how to make a journal, because I know when I make journals, it's different every time. Even if I make the same journal twice, like a hardcover journal, it's always kind of different. Even this, I may be doing different right now. I don't know. But if I can ever kick my husband out of my craft room, maybe I'll do some journal tutorials. Oh, I hate that word, tutorial. I'll show you how I make them. How about that? Not tutorial. As you can see, I'm terrible with the glue. I get it everywhere. I've never learnt that lesson. Less is more. There's been this crazy glue lady. Alrighty, here goes. Now, usually I will muck around with these corners, nitpicking that they're not square enough. That's when I'm not filming. But since I'm filming now, I'm not going to do it. They're okay. Don't fuss with them. Okay. See, I find the old school book cover journal, sorry, the old school book covering corners work the best for me. But do them however you find it easier. Oops. Oh, so gluey. Okay. All right, look, those corners weren't too bad, actually. They're quite good. They're nice and square. Okay. So that's how I did my little cover. I don't know why I didn't muck around with corners this time, and I got them perfect, actually. That's a bit annoying that I can just do it quick and get them right. And when I'm careful, they're so uneven. Okay, there's the little outside cover. Now, I'm not going to fold this yet because it still needs to dry. Should hold those down a little bit longer. And now you can decide what you would like to, actually, when you get to this side, decide what you're going to put on the inside cover, and also what sort of closure do you want. Now, I did just a ribbon closure. I had a big red ribbon off my husband's gift basket that he brought home from work. I guess I'm going to have to go find a closure. So if you do want a closure that's attached to the cover, do that now. So you might want a ribbon that you can glue here so that when you sew it, when you sew the cover, those ribbons will be sewn down as well. Anyway, I'll show you that. Anyway, I've got to go find a ribbon for a closure. Okay, I didn't have any red or green ribbon, or yellow, which I think would go with the cover. So I've got some scrap fabric here. Now, this is probably way too long, but I'll cut it down at the end. Now, I think my other journals, I had a little butterfly wooden button that I put on the front with some fabric. So that journal, I actually put the front closure on the front, and I put the back closure underneath. And then I sewed the wooden button on top. But this is only a little tiny one, and I don't have a wooden button. So I'm going to put both closures just on the inside. Now I'm just going to glue that on for now until I sew it. Let me find... Sorry, I need to come down a bit. I'm too blind to do it so far away. That's kind of the halfway mark-ish. I probably should measure it, but look, it's a little journal. It's not going to be... It's not going to be too far wrong. cannot use this glue today. My goodness, it is so drying so quickly. Okay. Is that about halfway? I hope so. Do the same on the other side. About there-ish. Okay. Now I'll trim those at the end. Now, the other two journals, I actually put green paper on the inside, and I put some wide washi tape glued down the center over the paper on the spine. But I don't have any of that green paper left, but you can put fabric, paper, card, whatever you want on the inside. I've got some scrap cardboard. These were green file folders, and I think I'm just going to use that. So to fill that little gap in the middle, I've got a little scrap of that fabric. Now, it's a wee bit too short. Normally I would like to fold the edges over, kind of like a little hem, but it's only a very small scrap, so I'm just going to glue it as is. That's okay. I'll survive, won't I? Or is it going to bug me? No, it's just a little baby journal. It doesn't matter. Just do it. It's a bit heavy-handed with the glue there, so there was a little bit that seeped through. Of course, I'm heavy-handed again. Now I'm just putting a bit of fabric down the center because for this, the signatures will be sewn straight into the cover with the strings dangling out on the outside, so some little beads or something can be hung on them, just like I did with the other two journals. If you are doing a hidden spine or hidden signature stitches, yeah, you do it very different to this. Okay, now I'm just going to put this on top. That's a bit big, isn't it? No, do it. These file folders, they're a bit curly because they got a bit wet. I took them outside to coffee dye because, yeah, they're just so green. And I took them outside to coffee dye, but I got sidetracked with something, and then I forgot them out there, and then that night it rained a little. And so they got wet, and yeah, they curled up at the sides. So now, if this were a bigger journal, I'd be doing it very different to this. So, but this is just a quick little knock-up journal. I mean, these are great to make for gifts. If you work in an office and, you know, you do something like a Secret Santa at Christmas, these are great little Secret Santa gifts. All their great little happy mails. So this little journal I'll be sending to someone in a little happy mail. Okay. So now I will just wait till that dries, and then all I'll do, then all I'll do is sew straight around the edge there. Oh, actually, before I sew it, once it's dry, I might put a little button here, just because I feel like I need something on the front. So I found this. I didn't have a red, well, I do have a red button, but they're also granny-ish because they're all from my grandmother. They're big grandma buttons, but I do have this dark pink button. It's almost red, so that'll do. So I would have liked a big yellow button, really, but I don't have one. I've got 1,000 tiny yellow buttons from my kids, my grandkids' school uniforms. They're old polo shirts, but I think I'll sew that on. Actually, I'll sew this on after I machine stitch it. So I'm going to let it dry, and I'll sew around that, and then I'll sew this button on. Okay, I've sewn the cover, straight stitch all around. I've sewn the button on. Sorry, I jumped ahead, and I've already put one of the pockets in, but I'll do another pocket with you. I was thinking of, originally I was going to put a little side belly band there, but I've put the pocket in, so I'll put another pocket here, and I'll show you how I made that. It's very easy. So I've just got a paint chip. I've got a bunch of different colours from when we were painting years ago. And this pocket I did quite high to cover the stitching from the button, because I've sewn the button on after I've sewn the cover and put the inside cardboard on, so you could see the stitching. So I've done a high pocket there to cover that little bit of stitching. I mean, not that it matters. You know, I could have done a lower pocket and just put a bit of fabric over that, but I thought I can just hide it with a higher pocket. This on the back, I'll put a lower pocket on, and I've already measured where I want that. Oh gosh, I'm too blind to see today. Where's my little line? There. Out there. Okay. Did I want, which one was I going with? Lower? Maybe this one. Actually, I'll go with this one. I think I was using the top half originally. I need to just trim a smidgen off the side. Just a tiny, tiny little bit. Oops. That'll do. Okay, and all I did, just got my little scrap of fabric. Might do the top bit so I get that little bee on there. Okay, and I've just glued it with glue stick first. I often wonder in years to come if someone ever pulls apart one of my journals, what they'll find underneath. Old towels, clothes, woolen jumpers, paint chips. Okay. In case you're wondering why I didn't do these pockets at the same time, I was putting a belly band there originally, but I jumped ahead and did this pocket, so I thought I'll do another pocket with you for the back. Now these I didn't fold over or fold the fabric over or anything like that, just because when you put stuff in and out of the pocket, it can get caught on it. But now when I sew this little pocket, I'm going to use a small zigzag stitch, and I will actually go over the side. So the zigzag won't be on the fabric. Only one side of the zigzag will be on the fabric. The other I'll do over the side, so it kind of seals the edge. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I did a video a while back. I'll link that down below if you want to see what I mean. Okay, so I will just now sew this. Actually, I'll wait a minute so that this is dry, and then I'll sew that. Okay, so I've sewn around that. So as you can see, the zigzag goes over the side. It just helps hold the fabric down and stops it lifting and fraying. You could fold the fabric over if you wanted, but I just feel like then when you put stuff, where is something? oops, you know, when you put stuff in and out the pocket, if the fabric is folded over, I feel like it'll get stuck on it. Anyway, and then I've just glued this little pocket down. Now you could, if you plan ahead a little, you could have these pockets ready made and just sew the top, and then when you glue it down and sew around the edge of the journal, you can also sew the side and the bottom down at the same time as the edge of the journal. And I do that sometimes with other soft cover journals. Sew the pocket down at the same time as the side of the journal. As you can see, this one, oh my gosh, I was so wonky. Okay. And there's your little bee journal cover. So it's nice and squishy. And I'm actually sending this to someone as a little happy mail with no signatures. So just the little cover. So she's going to make her own signature and sew it in all by herself. Because I don't think she's made a journal yet. I think she may have done one by now, because I'm so slow with Happy Mail. Okay. There. And that's our little journal. And I'll leave this long so she can cut it to the size she wants. And that's it. Anyway, I hope that helps. How I made the squishy cover. But like I said, you don't have to use an old quilt. You can use fabric straight on to whatever your substrate is, your folder or whatever you're using underneath. Use whatever you've got. But that's just to give you a few ideas. Anyway, hope that helps. Quick, easy little journal. Hope it helps, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.